Second. Oh, hello. Recording in
Hello.
progress. Hello.
Hello.
Long time no see, or long time
Yes.
no speak. Must be
Yes,
what?
indeed.
Must be hours since
Yes.
we last spoke. Best part of an hour. So
Oh,
listen, um, you know why you're here.
I do.
Yeah. This is my first, the first of, I hope to be many podcasts on high performance, change work, you name it, anything that's of interest,
Yeah.
right? And Ollie being a very old mate of mine, 30 years, isn't it? Touching, gotta be.
It's more than that, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Bloody hell. Yeah. Over 30 years, I thought Ollie is my first victim. I
That's
mean, first interview.
right.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, and I've said this to Ollie's face many times, so I'm not just blowing smoke here, by the way. Right? Ollie is the most driven person I know and I've ever known.
Wow.
You sound surprised.
Um,
Do you not
well
remember me
then,
saying? I say it
yeah,
to you. I say it to you every day in a text
yeah, yeah.
with hearts round.
I wake up in the morning and there it is, the little emoji.
Yeah. So, so here we are. I've got my matching shirt and wallpaper combo because it's summer.
Yeah, all I can see is teeth.
I'm getting flowers embroidered, tattooed on the front of my teeth, just to sort of complete the look. So yeah, we're going to be talking about, in this case, high performance and discipline in the role of high performance. Now, high performance, it's contextual, as the high performance state or way of being for chest, for instance, will be a different state of high performance for football, badminton, whatever it might be. So we're going to be talking mainly in the context of leadership, coaching and leadership, right? So before we do, tell me a little bit about your journey.
My journey.
Although I know it, or I know most of it,
Yeah.
Go on for the viewers.
Yeah. My journey it is actually quite surreal and strange to me because I actually wanted to do interior design as a career, and I actually went. Do you remember polytechnics? They used to have polytechnics back in the day, didn't they?
Yes.
And Ollie went to Polytechnic and studied design, and really
I
did
remember one of
enjoy.
your designs actually. It was an
Oh dear,
aftershave bottle.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked like a box of steak, but Lambert and Butler.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, didn't go down very well.
Oh, didn't know.
No, but it's funny. I'm not a big fan of the education system and sort of these contrived processes that people get pushed into. Industrial revolutionized mentalities.
Yeah.
So I didn't really enjoy it. So I got frustrated and I left Poly, and I just got a job, in a contact center because you have to pay your rent, don't you, and all this sort of stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, well, it's not really what I want to do, but I'm here and you've got to give it your best shot, haven't you? Otherwise, what's the point? You can sit here moaning about it, but I made the choices and decisions. And so roll your sleeves up and learn this sort of like art form, because it's a different sort of art, isn't it? So, the call center selling loans and credit cards and stuff like that. And I really immersed myself into it. And then within a year, I was a senior commercial business trainer for Bank of Scotland, teaching people PCP and HP agreements, and then I became a
I remember
trainer.
that. Was it in Chester?
Yeah, it was in Chester, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I started becoming a trainer and setting up contact centers for some of their clients and traveling the UK. And then I ended up in blooming London, managing a huge call center that I'd set up, and they asked me to stay, this big organization. And then by the age of 23, I was the head of customer services for the 11th largest company in the world. And then from there, I just started immersing myself into, mindset development, leadership, communication, the old Anthony Robbins book, Unlimited Power.
Yes,
And,
it was the first book I ever read on an LP.
Yeah. And then from there, with your help as well, with teaching me about NLP and introducing me to all that sort of stuff, I've just accumulated lots of knowledge and then used that to just develop my career. And I ended up being on the board of a contact center outsourcer. I was the head of learning and development, and before that I was the head of operations. And I've just sort of progressed from there. But I've been self-employed for 25 years now doing this sort of thing.
I remember the day you went.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's funny how things happen, isn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly the way. I mean, you made although we did NLP around as well. We did NLP together. I taught your company, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name now. But you made NLP your own, didn't you? You created the business brain.
Yeah.
Which is really is not just NLP. It's a lot more besides.
It is.
There's a lot of processes in there, and it's a very popular product now, isn't it?
Well, it's a three-part business, the business brain, which is the book, How to Train Your Business Brain, available in all good bookstores and some bargain buckets. And then we've got the app as well, the self-coaching app, and then we've got the learning program as well.
Yeah. So that's ever developing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, it's like, funny enough, talking about discipline and high performance. This is the bit I think that people just don't really get, which is you've always got to update your mental software like a business. You are a brand, aren't you? And you've got to keep up with things, trends, and you've got to be on the edge of all. I think Simon Sinek talks about, being on the cutting edge of everything just before they land. You've got to be aware of what's happening next.
It's funny you're saying that. I was talking to someone yesterday about similar in as much with a lot of NLP. A lot of people in NLP, they were taught it in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they're still teaching the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's not evolving.
No,
it doesn't seem to evolve. No new patterns are emerging.
Correct.
And it's sad really, because as a technology methodology, NLP is very, very powerful.
Yeah.
So how do you define high performance?
How do I define high performance? It is a person, a team, or an organization that is outcome orientated and future paced, with a passion and purpose built around discipline and learning. Okay.
So what do you think? Again, with a bit of NLP, right? The base of NLP, there are high performers and mediocre performers.
Yeah.
What do you think the differences are that make the difference?
Yeah.
What are the high performers doing? Let's pick a particular context, maybe leadership.
Yeah.
Right. What are the high performers in leadership doing? That mediocre performers are not. This
is just obviously my opinion. And I just think,
but that opinion is born out of many years of on the road experience, should we say? Road work, as I call it.
I coach and I train historic thousands of leaders from different levels, all the way up to owners of businesses and really senior people in big brands. Okay, and I think there are certain patterns, so you mentioned it, that high performers understand that the average person doesn't, the average leader doesn't. So the first pattern I would suggest is they are exceptionally driven towards finding a purpose in what they do, right? So leadership isn't just a job. Leadership is this all-encompassing part of their identity. They identify with what leadership actually is, and they can really define it clearly, right? And we talk about outcomes. It's a constant process of achieving outcomes every day in businesses, right? Isn't it? When you turn up Monday, Tuesday, or every day is about, what am I doing today that's going to make a difference? It's going to make an impact. And that's the question.
Is it moving me towards in the direction of my purpose?
Yes, absolutely. They have a purpose, and it's unique to them, right?
This is interesting to me because a lot of people, I find a lot of people think that the universe, or whatever it is, however they define it, there should be a purpose there
That's
offered
right.
to them.
Yeah, that's right.
And rather than they're looking for meaning,
Mm,
as opposed to, which for me is much more useful
mm,
and resourceful, is finding a meaning,
mm.
creating a meaning yourself.
Yeah,
Does
that's
that make
absolutely
sense?
totally. And this is what does set them apart, is they manage the environment doesn't manage them. So
Okay.
right, so you're absolutely spot on there. So if you, for example, let's just go to sport very quickly, but if you want to win a gold medal in, say, the javelin, the chances of you winning a gold medal in the javelin are zero, really, aren't they, statistically?
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but leaders in that field are so purposeful and driven to imagine that in their head. They're visionaries, aren't they? And they train to enable themselves to have the potential and possibility to achieve that gold medal, knowing that it's probably, in fact, almost certainly not likely to happen. But it's not about that. It's about who you become as you put in the processes and the programs, the disciplines, the learning to enable you to give yourself the chance. And so you're living a life of meaning, aren't you? Every day you're getting up and going, I know why I'm here because I want to try and achieve this.
It's very similar to the be do have model. However, if you switch it round, if you keep doing the things you need to do,
Yeah.
you become the person.
Yeah, that's right.
That you need to be in order to get the things that you want to have.
Right.
Does that make sense? The be do have, who do you have to be to have the things you want, or do the things you need to do in order to have the things you want? Right?
Yeah, that's spot on.
I think you can. Well, yeah, the first two certainly you can switch them around as and when's needed.
And that's a really good point, that, because this sort of second element to not only being purposeful and outcome orientated as a leader, it's when you wake up, you just mentioned it, you've got to have an image in your head of who you need to be to achieve those things, right? This is where people go a bit, well, let's just say that they're not quite aligned, is that they're waiting for things to happen, or they're asking for other people to give them this stuff. Whereas if you have an image in your head of who you want to be and what you want to achieve, then this is a second part, is you've got to put the actions and learning into the playbook. So you wake up and you go, right, I know who I want to be. So let's do that today. And let's say, for example, you lack confidence in presenting. Let's say you're a leader and you've got this amazing opportunity and you've got to present in front of 100 people and you've never done it before and you're really nervous. The average person would find all the reasons not to do it. Whereas a high performer would go, in order for me, how would a high performer present to those 100 people? And then you put the playbook together. And then what you do is you execute the actions and the learning to make it happen. But also, and this is another ingredient, is they know that they can't be good at everything immediately, which is people are obsessed now with immediacy because of phones and laptops. They get everything so easily now that putting effort in, it's almost like a lost art. But you've got to put effort in and you've got to fall over to learn how to do things. Otherwise, the whole process is invalid, isn't it? And actually becoming a high performer it's a process. It's not a destination.
You've probably seen the same as myself, where this point is really crucial. And when you're coaching someone, when you're working with people, the people that tend to evolve, that get the best out of coaching, get the best, and get what they need, heal, however you want to put it, right, are the ones who put the work in between the coaching sessions. And I can see the difference between when I'm working with people, the people who take the homework and go, right, I've done this, I'm going to put it into action, and the ones who go, I didn't get around to it.
That's right. Do you know what's? It's funny actually, because we're into fitness and sport and stuff, and I know a lot of personal trainers, right? And I get people who I coach sometimes, and they go, "Oh, I need to get fit and healthy, to lose some weight. Do you know any good personal trainers?" And I go, "I know loads of great personal trainers, but I don't know many committed clients."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'm just telling you, I thought now it's almost switching it on you, turns it on its head, doesn't it? You only good coaches. There are loads of good coaches, but I don't know many too. I don't know too many lines.
Yeah, That's right. Instead of saying, "Are you a committed client?" You just go, "Well, I don't know many committed clients, do you?" And it gets them to think, because actually it's their responsibility. Not as a coach, I can't. I doing 2 hours a week or whatever it's going to be. If you're a personal trainer, for example, how's that ever going to change anything? It's just not, is it? It's the work you do in between. It's the disciplines.
Yeah. And as a coach, you're there as a guide.
Mm.
Unless you're what's called an authoritarian coach, which is for me is a little bit sort of, I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me.
Mm.
Telling people how to live.
Mm-hmm.
You're there to sort of guide people, to offer explanations and ask them better questions than they ask themselves.
Yeah, that's right.
So that they go, oh, I'm not like that.
Yeah. And that's funny you said about a disciplinarian coach, because I can be that sometimes through necessity rather than desire.
Yeah. There's a time and a place for everything. I think, and when someone, you have a person you're working with and they have nothing left in the tool bag, nothing left in the resource box, then you might say, okay, let's talk about this. What would happen if we did this or tried this? But yeah, it's you sort of answered a question I was going to ask about discipline, the role of discipline in achieving high performance. Yeah, without discipline, it's unlikely it's going to happen.
Do you know what? This is a fascinating topic, and I've done a lot of work myself on this, right? Which is, I think there are three things that high performers know that most people don't, right? Motivation, discipline, and knowledge, right? Most people who don't live a fulfilling life, career, have health issues, all this sort of stuff. Just as a general rule of thumb, just imagine that, we're responsible for all the outcomes in our lives. They look for motivation to enable them to take action, right? Well, motivation is it's an illusion, because actually life's tough. And so the moment any adversity or challenge creeps into their day, there's a reason why they're not motivated. Therefore, because I'm not motivated, I can't do. Right?
Yeah.
Now, motivation is just, I use this analogy. It's just like it's like the tide. It comes and goes. You can read a book, you can watch a film, you can listen to some music and feel really fantastic. And go, oh, I've got to go for a run now. But then an hour later, it's disappeared, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So you can't be joyful 100% of the time. You can't be motivated 100% of the time. It's just impossible. So you can't rely on it. So why people think this illusion of motivation is critical, we've got to put that to one side. It's a nice thing to have, but when you've got purpose and passion, motivation is almost part of that.
To me, it comes along with it. And again, I'm sure you get these yourself. I know I have. People say, "Oh, I've got no motivation. I need motivation."
Yeah.
Or I need confidence. Or I need fill in the blank, right? And what they're usually asking for is an abstraction.
That's
a concept. You can't grab hold of it. You can't get a box of motivation. You can't get a box of confidence, right?
That's right.
And if I had X, whatever to fill in the concept, fill up the then I would do ABC.
Yeah.
Whatever. They want the state before the action.
And
what I've found, and this is one of the I think I've mentioned this before to you. I've found one of the few things that work consistently is once you start doing the action, even if it's in tiny, tiny, tiny steps, the motivation follows.
That's right.
Or the confidence follows.
Yeah.
And there's something that sort of brought it to my mind a couple of months ago. There was a personal trainer on one of these reels, in Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And she was, you could tell she did, well, as far as you can on a reel. She knew what she was doing. And what she said was spot on as far as I'm concerned. She said, I get a lot of clients asking me, how do I stay so motivated? And she said, well, the honest answer is I don't.
Yeah.
But I show up every day.
Right. Yeah.
And I find that personally, that's what works for me. And I think, again, just make it taking that one step.
That's it. And do you know what? I call it skill stacking. right?
Okay. Yeah.
Which is a, you know, in NLP we talk about chunking and we talk about strategies.
Yes.
So let's go to the public speaking thing, right? Let's say you're going to do a TED talk and you think, oh my God, it's really intimidating. I'm really concerned about it. Are you going to be motivated every day to practice doing a presentation? Maybe, maybe not. So what you have to do is break down the outcome that you want to do, which is deliver a great TED talk, into a strategy, reverse engineer it almost, and break it into parts and daily routines and weekly disciplines and monthly, you know what I mean? And so it's skill stacking. So you break presenting down into maybe 3, 4, or 5 parts. So one part might be building confidence, right? Planning and preparation, right? Body language, voice projection. But you can't do them all at the same time. So let's take voice projection. Okay, well, what is that? So you do a bit of research and you go, oh, voice projection is made up of 5 different things. And you go, right, well, let's do one of those things this week. Let's do the second thing. And you can stack them together with other parts. And soon enough, if you just chunk it down and then chunk it back up, suddenly you're making progress. These are the disciplines that people just think, the excuse is, I haven't got time. No, you have got time. There's 2 problems with
Oh,
your thinking around
priorities.
time. Number one is you don't know how to organize your priorities. And number 2, you're looking for a parachute to get out of it in reality, aren't you? Really? Let's be brutally honest here, right? Those are the 2 reasons why you're blaming
Well,
time.
if we're talking about public speaking as as a
Yeah.
particular example, it's in the top 3 most feared
Mm.
situations, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. You can overthink things, so you just almost exit out, don't you?
Yeah.
And what you have to do is underthink things, but not in a way that is negating the importance of it. It's the strategies that you have to put into play.
And it goes back to what we were talking about before, which is what breaking it down
Yeah.
into tiny steps. What
Yeah.
little step, you know?
That's it.
I mean, you've heard me talk about working with people in public speaking, you
Yeah.
know, and it's also what they believe about, you know, how they can conceptualize public speaking in their head. For
Yeah.
some people, public speaking is speaking to a team of people.
Mm.
I can't speak in public. What they're actually talking about right now, I can't speak to more. I'm thinking of a specific example now. A team of 15 people.
Yeah.
Well, that's different. We have to, you know, it's making sense.
Yeah, totally.
So then, as I say, it's then breaking it down. Okay, so can you speak to 2 people? Yeah, yeah. Well, I speak to 5 people every day. So okay, so what about 6? And you add on and you add on, you add on until at some point, at 15 becomes, oh yeah, I actually can do this.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
So is regards setbacks, again, setbacks. You know, sometimes, you know, how do you think as a high performer, how do they typically, well, you know, you tell me, how do you typically handle a setback or what you might class as a failure?
Yeah. Well, funny enough, this goes to you know, we talk about motivation and then disciplines.
Yeah.
And discipline is the key. It's getting out of bed and going for the run, even though you don't want to do it, because you know you've got to do it. Right? And then you feel good afterwards, you know, because you're building character, aren't you? Right. And the thing about building character is when adversity strikes, people with a strong character have the capacity, this is the third point, to explore adversity as an interesting, curious concept. So it's building knowledge, because to me, adversity and problems and challenges is a message from the universe saying, yeah, it's not easy, is it? But we're going to build your character. So then if anything that does potentially derail the average person turns up, you're effortlessly going to go through it because you've learned how to. So you almost skill stack the ability to problem solve, right? To be able to be brave and courageous in the face of adversity. Yeah. Decision making, all of these are skills that people just are not taught in the education system. And so when they're blank,
Imagine if it was.
I know, because they're blank, right? Because they're blank, they need certainty. So they don't know where to pull information from. So rather than self-learn and teach and go in and find out, they avoid. Whereas actually the building of character and high performance is saying, oh, okay, you know, I want to throw the javelin and win a gold medal for the rest of my life, but I've got a shoulder injury now. What am I going to do about it? Well, what are you going to do about it? You're going to stop? But and if you're purposeful, right, and motivation is something that's always there at some level, and you've got the disciplines, and you've got a good coach, and you've got a good self-confidence,
Mm.
belief, you'll find a way.
You know what, I do like this idea of discipline and
Mhm.
creating a routine, because it goes it goes across a lot of different contexts, if you like.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I know, as you know, I deal with a lot of PTSD, CPTSD,
yeah.
victim sufferers, if you like. Right?
Hmm.
And one of the common factors,
Hmm.
for going to evolving through a trauma, if you like, post-traumatic recovery, is create a routine, create a discipline.
Yeah,
When you get up in the morning, you do this, you do this, you do this, even if it's get up, shower, brush teeth.
yeah, that's right.
Just discipline, discipline, routine, routine, routine. Right?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
And it also helps with something you've just mentioned before about decision making.
Hmm.
Because again, as you know, when we're anxious, when we're stressed, when we're
Hmm.
traumatized, one of the first things to go south is problem solving and decision making.
Yeah, yeah.
You lose the empathy, you lose the ability, if you like. So
That's
you
right.
have to build it back up again.
Yeah,
Small decisions,
yeah.
tea or coffee.
Mm.
Do I like dogs or cats?
Yeah.
Right? Small steps again.
Well, it's the flow model where you have when
Yes.
you see athletes who are in flow, or just people who are just suddenly they're in and time
Yeah.
just disappears. It's that balance between competence and workload, right? So they've got the right amount of skill and competence and awareness that's just at a tipping point, right? Where it's like, oh, I know what I'm doing, but I'm pushing my limits. And I kind of like that because I'm a bit of a bold person.
It's a
But also,
challenge.
yeah, they like that, right? But also they're not overwhelmed with saying yes and people pleasing and doing too much at the same time. So they've got this balance of they're organizing their time and strategy around what they're doing, but also they're constantly learning. And this is the thing about adversity is unless you learn how to deal with life's challenges, you're never going to perform at a high level. In fact, you're going to be a victim of of life. I mean, I've got my own business, but there was a recession, wasn't there? Remember when it
Yes.
was it 2008, whatever
There's
it
been
was?
a couple.
Yeah, and I've managed to survive those. And people go, "Oh, you got your own business training about something." Well, yeah, I nearly went bloody bankrupt in the last one. Nearly went bankrupt, right?
Yeah, we both seen times like that, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah. I had to
Over the
close down
years.
my office. I had to get rid of my friends who worked with me because they were my
Yeah.
friends. I had to give them a car back. In 24 hours, I'd lost all of that. And then what you have to do is rebuild and readjust. And you can sit there, and I gave myself a week of sadness, of acceptance is a really important thing. You've got to
Yeah.
accept that things are going to change and that what you wanted and what you hoped isn't going to work now. Right?
Now, with acceptance,
Hmm.
would you like to explain what you mean by accept? I know what we mean when
Yeah,
you
yeah,
say acceptance,
yeah.
but just for the people who are listening, because a lot of the time people mistake acceptance for apathy, for
No,
resignation.
no, that's it. You see, so
And
for
it's not, is
example,
it?
no, I had a vision for my business, right? And I was working towards it and it was going really, really well, right? So I
Hmm?
had a nice office, nice car, lovely people who worked for me. It was brilliant, right? Living the dream almost. And then the recession hit and overnight the whole thing had to change. And I had to accept that what I'd planned in my head and what I was working towards had to change. And you have to emotionally accept that. You have to logically accept that, right? Almost physically accept that as well. It's a
Hmm?
state of mind. And then you go, and it's a series of questions, which is, okay, so now I put that in a box and that's to one side. How do we rebuild what we're going to? It's outcome architecture, I call it. I'm going to rebuild, right? So I've got the foundations, right? I know I've got loads of clients. I know what I'm doing, hopefully. Got good connections and contacts. So what do I do now? The world has changed currently. So how do I work within those constraints and build from there? And I had one of the best years I've ever had. Literally 12 months after that, I'd rebuilt my business and I'd turned over more than I did the year before.
And just for the viewers, if you like,
Mm,
just to sort of consolidate with that, I was around when
mm,
that happened to you,
hmm.
and I can vouch for what you were saying there just then, how you did it, how you built it up.
Yeah,
I watched you do that.
yeah.
So
I'm
it's
not.
not like you're going back in memory, it's war stories.
Hmm.
No, I've seen you do it.
Yeah, and I'm not. Are you okay with swearing on this podcast?
Well, yes, it's a
Well,
it's a PG. No, it's a 15. 15.
well, there's no point bullshitting, is there? There's no point
No,
bullshitting yourself. Most people do sometimes. They live in a delusion. But you've got to accept the fact that this is where I am, and I've got good friends and family members that you can talk to, and you chew the fat, and you take advice that you pick and choose, and then you go, well, it just goes back to this identity thing. My purpose in life, and I built the business in this, is to help people become happier, healthier, and more successful at work. Right. And so if I was going to give advice to somebody in a similar situation, what advice would I give them? And I went, oh my God. So I've got the answers. So just try them out. And I tried them
what
out
to
and it
do.
worked. It worked because I've accumulated all that experience and knowledge with the disciplines to motivate myself to do it. So as a coach, you've got to be able to not just give advice, but actually to be the sort
To
of
walk your
idea.
talk.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. There's a particular model I think I've shown you've seen it. So I know we've looked at it. The motivation or the resource triangle.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you're whatever situation you're in,
Mm.
you know, or whatever you say you want to do. If the peak of the triangle, you put desire, fear, and fear on the left hand side, desire on the right hand side. At the peak of the apex, if you like. If there's not enough fear of not doing it or not a desire to do it,
Yeah.
then we tend to, well, you know, hate it, answer that, whatever.
That's right.
Once we've got that sorted out, once we've got that the motivation direction sorted out, okay, in the bottom left, know how. Have we got the resources? And that's what you were doing there. What do you think about it, wasn't it? Okay, what resources have I got? X, Y, Z. I've got good clients. I've got a support structure. I've got the work. You know, they're me tangible resources, if you like. You know, I've got some, you know, good contacts. What intangible resources? I've got a desire to do it. I've got the states to do it. I've got the mindsets to do it. Right. What are the opportunities on the right hand side of the triangle?
Yeah.
And what I found interesting, once you've got the left hand side sorted out, then the right hand side tends to present itself.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
It's a cracking little tool, that, by the way.
And interestingly enough, Terry, this is where another thing that people might get a bit confused is I had to decompress for a month. I didn't do anything for a month. But apart from just being mindful, so I just made notes, I journaled things. I went to the gym a lot. I went running a lot, you know, and I met up with good friends and I just did a bit of traveling for a month, right? And just to reevaluate. And it's important that people just don't just go hurtling into things, energy, got to do this, got to do that. Sometimes just taking a step off the gas a little bit. And mindfulness is really important. It's just reprogramming and reprocessing and revitalizing your mindset to go again. You can't just constantly be on the on button all the time. And I've learned that. Even this morning we were talking about it. I'm really busy at the moment, right? With lots of good things happening. But you know, you can be in danger of burnout because you want to fulfill the projects, you want to say yes to everything. But I am literally going to go to Spain for 2 weeks and I'm not going to do anything. I'm not even going to open my laptop. I'm just not going to do it. Because I don't need to do it, you know. So it's understanding that sometimes, you know, you can't be 100% to everyone all the time.
And not listening to that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Before we finish, I want to ask you about procrastination.
Oh yeah.
Right. But maybe we'll do that later.
Hey.
I couldn't resist that. The oldies are the goodies. Right. So as a high performer, what are your strategies for dealing with procrastination?
Okay. I'm going to give you an example, right?
I like examples.
Yeah. So I was running recently and I broke my metatarsal. And as you know, because you do this as well, mixed martial arts is something that I really love and enjoy and I study.
Mhm.
And so I broke my metatarsal. So everyone was saying, oh, God, you can't, you're going to have to miss that class. The next day, I was still doing the class with a broken metatarsal.
Yeah.
Because what I could have done is waited and waited and waited and procrastinated and made an excuse. But I had so much momentum and enjoyment in what I was doing, right? It's not what's happening to me. Procrastinators, what they tend to do is they want everything to be lined up perfectly so they can take action,
That's it.
right? Now, the problem is with my situation,
I'll
nothing
do it
feels.
when.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I booked myself in for that session, and I rang up my sensei and my friend Steve, and I said, just to let you know, broken my foot, but I'll still be there. And he laughed and he went, I know you will.
Mhm.
And I went and we just did some groundwork. I didn't need to use my foot, but because he was aware that you had to be a bit more extra careful and I had to be, you still find a
You
way around
train
it.
round it.
You train
You train
around it.
round it. Yeah.
And that's just like life. So procrastinators, what they tend to do, they're perfectionists and they don't like being out of control and they like certainty. So they want this high level of
There's a
quality.
podcast in itself,
Yeah,
dealing with uncertainty. We'll
yeah,
do
yeah,
that one.
yeah. Whereas for me, it's if you've committed to something and you do it to the best of your ability with with the resources you have in what time you've got, right? Just do it, as Nike say, right? So it's the disciplines again. It's not about 100% perfect. It's about, are you making progress? So I say it's progress over perfection.
Nice one, Denzel.
Yeah,
That's my that's my go-to. A lot of my metaphors around films because I love films,
yeah, we
and
love
I
films,
often
don't
use that. Yeah, and that's one of the metaphor, just a mini metaphor, mini analogy that I
we?
use. Denzel Washington, Equalizer, progress, not perfection.
See, I've never seen that film. I didn't know it would. I didn't know he said that.
Really?
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Progress, not perfection. I can't do
really.
Denzel Washington. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh.
And and when you think about it, if you're progressing
Mm,
and working if you're doing your best and
mm.
progressing, that is perfection in that moment.
Well, perfection doesn't exist, does it?
No, but what I'm saying is, if people want to, oh, no, it's got to be perfect. It's got
Mm,
to be right. It's got to be right.
yeah.
But you
According
know,
to,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. According to who, right?
mm,
Compared to what?
that's it.
What's your criteria?
Yeah.
What would happen if it wasn't? All the
Mm,
NLP, whatever's, all those specifier questions that you could come up with.
yeah,
But
yeah.
again, it is your best is perfection, as far
Mm,
as I'm concerned,
yeah.
as far as perfection goes.
Well, I suppose that the final thought around that is, if you're, I don't know, if you're a surgeon and you're performing life-saving surgery, brain surgery and stuff like this, and
Yeah.
someone's wheeled in and it's urgent, you can't go, hmm, hang on a second. Is every single item perfectly positioned? And is this person
I'm not
perfectly
feeling it
sedated?
today.
And you just roll your sleeves up and you go, right, we've got to get this done. Right. And there's no room for perfection if you're trying to live a fulfilling life, actually, to be honest.
Yeah. Again, it's also perfection is one of those concepts, isn't it? One of those concept
Mm,
words, those fluffy words, the treat it
yeah,
like a noun.
yeah,
It's
that's right.
different things to different people.
Mm,
So listen, we'll finish up.
yeah.
Right? Give us one takeaway as a top one. And you have to say one thing, one piece of advice, one nugget for
Yeah,
someone to go home with.
yeah.
What would it be?
Okay. Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer, the greatest, I think he is the greatest Olympian, actually, or one of them at least, anyway. I was doing a bit of research around this, right, about high performance. And what was interesting is, and this is the advice I want to give everyone, is you have to visualize yourself in the future achieving the things you want to achieve, right? But also you've got to sensory acutely design it. So you've got to visualize it in great detail. You've got to hear everything around you and you've got to connect with it emotionally. And you've got to repeat that process every day so that literally it's an internal story that you're telling yourself. And then the key to this is, right, Phelps also by design, thought about every bit of adversity when he was swimming to win a gold medal that might go wrong. So his goggles falling off, his missing us. And he thought, what would I do in those situations? So when they did occur, in his head, he dealt with it anyway. So when his goggles did fall off, nothing changed because he'd been there and done it in his head. And this is what people have to do. They have to start reprogramming their internal world so that their external world aligns. And that's what he did perfectly.
I love that, because it's creating certainty.
That's right.
If this happens, then that. If this
Mm.
happens, then that. This happens, then that. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oliver, as always, it's been a pleasure.
And likewise.
And I'm sure I'll speak to you very soon.
Yes, my friend. Thank you. See you later.
Ta-ta.